Hey, what's going on, guys? Over here, and welcome back to my F1 2017 career mode, episode number 122 today for the Chinese Grand Prix in Season 7. If you did miss the last episode, be sure to go check that one out before you see this one uploaded a couple of days ago, so you may have missed it, and it gives you a chance to catch up, and it will make this kind of intro part make a bit more sense. So obviously, after last episode, a very, to say the least, strong reaction from some of you guys in the comments in terms of how I wanted to run the first half of the season, because of course, if you haven't seen that already, we unfortunately got stuck with the Silver Arrows for another half season at least. I'm hoping to change teams halfway through this season if we can get the reputation level high enough, but for the rest of the season I was talking about not upgrading the car really, because if you think about it in terms of real life Formula 1, when drivers do announce that they're indefinitely leaving the teams basically cut the drivers out of the development process. They're not given any kind of secrets into the R&D of the car, and also from a gaming perspective, in any game you play, you want to try and perform the best you can and try and do anything you can to up that. And so in my mind, it makes no sense to upgrade the team that will become my future rivals if and when I move the team. But there was one actual good point made to me. The rest of them I'm gonna just kindly disagree with a lot of them, but one point was actually one that I could agree with, which is the fact that in order to get my reputation high enough, I do need to actually perform quite well in this half season. I need to potentially win a couple of races, and from the first episode you can clearly see the Force Indies look very strong around there. That might just be a track specific thing, but we've seen that it looks like maybe the Renaults still do have their race pace there. Red Bull certainly still there, and Ferrari, just about. So we do have plenty of actual on-track rivals to try and beat in order to get the reputation level up, especially for teams like Red Bull, Ferrari, and Renault. I need to be beating pretty much most of them every single race to get the reputation level up. So in line with that, and I did fully actually agree with that argument in terms of that's why I should be upgrading the car still, I'm going to be installing 2 major upgrades, and actually the funny thing is, it's still not going to change much in terms of how I was going to run the season originally, because the 2 major upgrades are going to take 4 episodes to come in. So actually, up until the Spanish Grand Prix, the career mode will still run literally as I was intending to run it, and then after Spain, we'll get the 2 major upgrades, and hopefully when that race comes, we can start maybe winning a couple of races and get that reputation level nice and up, so I can actually definitely switch to the team, because I have 0% interest in staying in Mercedes in this season. I have quite a short attention span for what team I'm in career modes. I like to change it up a lot of the time, like to give myself different environments to work in, different teammates to work against, and that's why I'm strongly for switching for Mercedes as early as we can. Also at the same time, no matter how good the car gets, the Mercedes car in this game does drive like an absolute arse, and it still does. In Australia, it wasn't too bad. You're about to see around here in China, certainly in practice and qualifying, definitely wasn't feeling amazing out there around Shanghai. Kind of same unfortunate characteristic that we had so many times crop up last season of the car just feeling so imbalanced, and kind of the front end either stepping out or the rear end stepping out just in the middle of the corner where nothing's really happening in terms of, there's no power being delivered or there's no braking happening, just letting the car roll through, where usually other cars I've driven, the Renault for example, especially the Force India, was very, very smooth as a car, just didn't have any kind of moving around or sloshing around in the car. The Mercedes just likes to kind of move about a little bit and just doesn't feel as planted as it should do, considering it's a Mercedes car. It used to be the #1 car in the career mode. Obviously at this point it's on paper the 3rd best, and I don't know, I think on track I would say we've maybe just got about the 2nd or 3rd best car. I think Force India and Renault are probably just kind of fighting out for the 2 best ones. I think Red Bull have kind of just lost a bit of their edge, and I think they're maybe just on level with us or just behind us, and then Ferrari looked to have dropped off quite a bit, and Vettel and Raikkonen, especially Raikkonen now in the opening round, and so far they're about to see through qualifying, struggling quite a bit to get up to speed, but the Mercedes still just not quite there, and felt in a way almost, I don't know if it's a psychological thing, but just actually felt worse coming here in Season 7 than it did in Season 6 almost, through turns 1 especially, and then through this next double left-hander, the exit of it compared to the AI, just unable to get that power delivery and just get straight out that and dart to the next corner as fast as they can. But across the line, trying to do the best job we can in qualifying. Unfortunately, it's only P8. Lewis there in 3rd place, so fair play. So you can see the car definitely does have some speed, but in terms of the balance of the car, looks like Lewis can just definitely handle it a lot better than I can at the moment, and P8 is the best we can manage, and so we are going to have to pull up our socks a little bit and try and really fight quite hard in the opening laps in this Grand Prix to try and get up the order. As I said, we need to try and beat all the people ahead of us. Palmer, Vettel, Perez, Ricciardo, especially Ricciardo obviously being our main rival in the actual career mode menus. he's our main rival for now, and we only have a couple of, I think there's only 5 different kind of points to go between us two to try and beat him in the rivalry. If we do that, that'll be a big chunk of reputation to get, and then obviously trying to beat our teammate as well will help the reputation. So those are our 2 main goals, really, and then obviously a bonus point if we can try and get on the podium, or even try and go for the race win, as we always try and do, try and get the maximum out of every single race we go to. So let's go to the full grid then, and then we'll get into this race for the Chinese Grand Prix, round number 2 of Season 7.
That then, let's run through the grid order. Great work from Nico Hülkenberg yesterday sees him start on pole, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Ricciardo, Sergio Perez, and Vettel, Palmer, and a Mercedes, Ocon, and Kimi Raikkonen, Alonso, Sainz, Romain Grosjean, and Kvyat, Magnussen, Van Dorn, Pascal Wehrlein, and Lance Stroll, Ericsson, and Felipe Massa completes the grid. And with preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track.
Right, so here we are on the grid then for the Chinese Grand Prix, and just before we get going then, looking at the race strategy, our team wants us to go for a 2-stop there, you can see on screen, but just like we did last episode, Australia, we're probably going to go against what our team wants us to do, and we're going to go with a 1-stop super soft to the medium tyre, because I think Force India and Red Bull are probably going to try that, and so to try and get ahead of those guys, and potentially the Renaults, who will most likely do a 2-stop, will go with the 1-stop instead, trying to get track position. So here we go then to 5 red lights to the Chinese Grand Prix, and we're underway. It is a good start for us compared to Sebastian Vettel there. Even better one for Julian Palmer though on the left hand side, and Esteban Ocon, who tried to go around the outside then of the German. So Vettel getting parked up a little bit behind Palmer, as Palmer also tries to feed his way through ahead of Ricciardo. Doesn't work out. Perez down the inside of the Australian. Palmer though comes back at us through the next left-hander, and is there side by side with this little bit of oversteer moments, and Palmer is able to get alongside us there. Meanwhile, Ricciardo's being squeezed out by Sergio Perez. We're going to go down the inside of Palmer, and actually we catch Ricciardo napping here. He's caught up behind Perez. Looks like he just didn't, we just couldn't get a move on there. We're stuck behind him somewhat, didn't have any kind of space to go, and so we're able to send it down the inside now of the next corner into the S section. Flat out here, just about lifting off a tad though as we get to the next right-hander, and that allows Ricciardo to swing back through. We've got the wider line there, and so that compromised our turn-in, but now we squeeze him out on the double left-hand. A little bit of argy-bargy there, but getting aggressive with our main rival to get ahead, and we're up into P5 there. Meanwhile, Sergio Perez right up the gearbox then of the next Red Bull along. Max Verstappen second place is Lewis Hamilton, so he's had a really good start from P3 there, but still leading the way is Nico Hülkenberg there off pole position. Now you can see Verstappen defending from Perez, and he shoves Perez wide a little bit on the left, and that sends Perez a little bit wayward there, locking up on the right tyre. So I tried to slow things down, otherwise I think I would have hit the back end of Perez, but Verstappen getting the elbows out just like I did with Ricciardo to try and defend his position against Perez. We've got yellow flags behind in turn 1. Looks like one car is off there, and so we might have one retirement already in this Grand Prix with only 2 laps gone as we swing through the right-hander, getting right up the gearbox. A little bit oversteered though, so sets us a little bit back, but for the moment actually looks like Verstappen's holding up Perez through the corner, so that might help us as he's effectively backing up the Mexican into us. We've got yellow flags though up ahead, so is that for one of the guys in the lead, Hülkenberg or Hamilton? It's going to be Hamilton as he pulls up on the left just in front of Verstappen, and he's out of the Chinese Grand Prix. So 2 major upgrades, and yet this race is going to be probably coming away. It's a bit of a disaster for the team as a whole with Hamilton now out, and obviously I think if I remember correctly it was a couple of days ago the episode, so that's how bad my short-term memory is for the career mode, but I think Hamilton went out of the Australian Grand Prix as well, or at least he didn't score points there, so pretty miserable start to Season 7. But like I said in that episode, because I don't really want to be here in this team, I could really care less about how Hamilton does in this season this time round, in terms of I'm not going to really go for the constructors fight, am I, with Mercedes here. So instead we're just going to get a move on and dive down the inside then, and Sergio Perez already took Verstappen in a straight line just like Perez did actually. Perez a really nice move though in that long right-hander just before the back straight to overtake Verstappen around the outside, I think that was, and then obviously we got a pretty good toe off the back of the Dutchman, and we tried to make a move to the hairpin on Perez. Didn't work out, so we're going to have to be patient here. A little bit of nice nose cam action, getting right up the gearbox that was through the final corner then, and eventually just being patient enough to make the move on the main straight. But now Kimi Raikkonen is out of this Grand Prix as well, so we've got 18 runners already only after 3 laps gone. Virtual safety car out then for the Chinese Grand Prix, so 2 major players then in the top 10 out of this race, Hamilton and Raikkonen, so that will allow maybe some other teams just on the cusp of some points to maybe get in there. I think the likes of McLaren and Toro Rosso are looking very good around Australia there, and I think it's Stoffel Vandoorne who's made a good start so far in the background there. I think I could see the McLaren orange, so it could be a good one for them. All the likes of Williams or any of the other teams, Haas generally have gone well here at China sometimes before, So we'll have to see about that. But Virtual Safety Car comes back in, and now we'll try and do our best to basically manage the race now from what is now P2 in the Grand Prix. Somehow find ourselves there quite rapidly, as though this was the replay then of Hamilton out the Grand Prix. No engine failure, just a mechanical failure, looks like. And he's parked up there and obviously pulled up just ahead of Verstappen. So thankfully, for Verstappen's sake, Hamilton pulled up quite early. Otherwise, that could have been a bit of a nasty crash on the apex. But now as we go through the laps, then following that Virtual Safety Car and this first stint, Perez showing the pace, and that left-hander that I mentioned in qualifying that I'm pretty poor against the AI comes into play, because Perez sends it down the inside there, and so we're going to have to give him the room, because he's got his well more than half a car length down the inside there, as we try and force him a little bit wide by opening up the steering wheel. Now I'm just trying to get the traction down, but he's got a little bit more downforce, it looks like, around the outside there, and so showing the good pace he had in Australia as we try and maybe slip into the slipstream. Didn't quite work out, actually, because my nose was a little bit too far ahead, but I couldn't really judge that. You can't see the nose, obviously, of these cars, but I tried to get some slipstream, but nonetheless, we've actually got the legs on him with Rich Mix just down the straight. So even though maybe aerodynamically a little bit down maybe on the Force India team, still got the legs on the engine. Of course, after the upgrades we did last season, we got back into kind of #1 place of the engine order in terms of the power delivery, just pure straight line speed. But clearly the aerodynamics and chassis maybe still need some work in this car against the Force India team, and so that's why Perez showing quite strongly so far this race, and why he did win the last race, and indeed the last one of last season in Season 6. We come in through eventually on lap 9 now for our first pit stop and onto the medium tyres. So at this point, Hulkenberg has already pitted for his first set, so kind of confirming to what I said while we're looking at the race strategy, that the Renaults once again are going to try a 2-stopper. You know, see, it's 7 seasons in and they still haven't upgraded their tyre wear enough to do a 1-stop like most of the teams here, so surprising, but also exactly like what we thought they'd do. So they're going to be for a 2-stop, but you can see Red Bull and Force India there, at least behind me, of Ricciardo and Perez, both in full medium tyres. So all of us are trying a 1-stop here, so that is why I said we should be trying the 1-stop, because you can see Palmer up ahead on the 2-stop there, so he's managed to jump us with the undercut, but he's stuck a little bit at the moment behind the Sauber. So this is where we can try and maybe use some pace of these fresh rubber on the medium tyres and try and overtake him, and then just use that track position to defend as much as we can. But unfortunately, I can probably already tell that Hulkenberg maybe just has a bit too much pace in the tank here to try and challenge him. So I think maybe the best we're going for is P2, but you never know. If we can try and get past Palmer and Ericsson swiftly as possible, don't get held up in this traffic, you never know. We could make it work. If Hulkenberg's tyres start to go off a bit too much on that second stint, then his undercut just might not work on us, so he might end up actually being ahead of him on track, and then I'm confident I can defend from him. It's just about getting ahead of him, really. But you can see now the Sauber is really being no better word than a mobile chicane to Palmer here as we go through onto the main straight there, and then we'll have DRS here, we'll have Rich Mix to burn. Obviously, I'd assume Palmer up ahead is also going to try and overtake the Sauber, so we may have to be a little bit patient, make a move on the Sauber first, and try and set up the move just like we did on the Force India into the hairpin, and going onto the main straight as we pull on the left-hand side. We're going to try and break around the outside there. It's very close. Palmer locks up, and oh, Sparks flying around there as Palmer makes contact with us on the right rear there, and he's on the outside this time. We're on the inside. We're going to try and hold this through the last corner. It's so close there. Palmer goes off track a tiny bit to give us the room, so fair play to him, but we get in the slipstream. DRS open, and just like we did on the Force India there, we set up the move on the main straight as we just get past the other Red Bull, Max Verstappen, although we go a little bit wide as the rear end steps out there on the Mercedes, but we swing back through and basically make a switchback move on the racing line there. So really nice, actually, a little bit of action there with Palmer, a bit of dancing basically left and right, kind of, you know, you go, I go, he goes, and eventually we're the ones ahead, and we're up into what will be a net P2 eventually. We do have a few other cars still out in this Grand Prix. I think the likes of Felipe Massa, there you go, and also I think Lance Stroll as well. I think both Williams cars going for a long stint on those set of soft tyres. I think they both started on those tyres, I think, because I think Massa was way down the order, I think, as the Williams cars really dropped off in the last few seasons. But this will be effectively a net P2 there as we come through. You can see down that straight, Palmer was closing in somewhat, but we do have some decent speed down that straight, despite the Renault obviously being very light as a chassis. That we did all those upgrades, remember, in Seasons 2 and Season 3, doing so much weight reduction to the Renault car, and obviously they're reaping the benefits as an AI team now due to my upgrades. But we've got the engine power to kind of pull through, and actually as we move on to lap 17, this will be now yellow flags behind us. We're down to 16 runners there, but you can see still in P2, and there's Hulkenberg now coming through into P1, so he's made his pit stop already. So just like I said, I had fears that Hulkenberg would have too much pace for us to even jump him there, and that's exactly what's happened. So although this one stop's allowed us to jump any kind of two stoppers that were present, the only one man I couldn't jump was Nico Hulkenberg, and unfortunately from then on, pretty straightforward, kind of maybe less mediocre 2017 race from real life. Nothing really happened, the tyres just go the distance, and Nico Hulkenberg is going to come through to win this Grand Prix. Quite funny enough though, the second the animation came up for him winning the race, the game also announced that Stoffel Vandoorne had retired from the Grand Prix, which is quite unfortunate because I think Vandoorne was in the bottom half of the top 10 there. So McLaren so far a little bit unlucky, although, you know, despite their kind of upgrades from the end of last season. And away from us, we might not have had any action to talk about at the very end of this race. There is some action just a little bit further behind us. This is Danica Fiat in 4th place, Verstappen 5th. And this is on the last lap here. He's making a move down the main straight there. So at the dying stages, with only 2 corners to go, basically, Fiat's going to go down 1 and maybe 2 as Palmer gets stuck in there, and he kind of shoves him off a little bit wide. It's a little bit rude from the Brit there, but he gets past him there, and so Fiat, the Russian, goes down from 4th to 6th, unfortunately. So the Toro Rosso man kind of robbed almost, so kind of sad for him, but we come across the line there in P2. Hulkenberg in 1st, and 3rd place was Sergio Perez. Palmer, obviously, he was 3rd, but then he made his 2nd pit stop eventually that he had yet to make, and that's why he was behind the Red Bull and Toro Rosso. But yeah, really unfortunate for Fiat, because he was actually that was actually a really great performance by him to be up in 4th, and so he goes down to 6th in the span of just one little straight there at the end, the kind of second half of the back straight, and then the hairpin with Palmer kind of doing the same move that he tried to do on us when he was defending from us. But there you go, Nico Hulkenberg, our former teammate from Renault, wins the Grand Prix then. So far this season, Perez and then Hulkenberg, both our former teammates winning races there, so you can clearly see the effect I've had in previous teams and bring them up. And so in the championship, Hulkenberg is the one that takes the lead then. We stay put in 2nd, 4 points behind Nico there, so doing a decent enough job at the moment there. Mercedes down the order though, 3rd place there, you can see obviously after Hamilton's retirement there, and I'm the only kind of breadwinner in the Mercedes household so far this season in Season 7. But positives in terms of we beat our teammate, obviously, because he went out of the Grand Prix. We beat Ricciardo. He was, him and Verstappen, well, Verstappen kind of came back at the end there, but Ricciardo wasn't really in the race, especially after the opening laps, and just went down way down the order. And so you can see we're only 1 point behind him in the rivalry update, so we need to try and get 2 points over him in the next race. We want to try and win that rivalry, because if we can win that, that'll be quite positive for the reputation. You can see the reputation does go up with Ferrari and Red Bull, and just a tiny bit with Force India. Nothing budges on Renault, of course, but you know, 3 teams going up is good enough for me, and I think we're doing positive work there in terms of that reputation level. So just continue like this, and hopefully maybe get a little bit luckier in the next few rounds. So maybe win one of those races, and then we wait for those upgrades to come in at Spain, and hopefully win a few more races to try and get that reputation nice and up, so I can leave for a team. But for this episode then, guys, if you have enjoyed that episode, smash the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I've been Ava. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll see you guys next time.